peer assessment and how that works within each of your organizations. I won't say institutions. Who would like to start?
Okay, well, peer assessment at the council, specifically in the music section at the Canada Council. What we do for our creation and dissemination grants is we call it within our section the podding system. So basically, let's say for production grants is we'll take all the classical applications together and find a committee for the classical, all for the jazz, for the folk, so that you find experts in that one field to assess those applications. So, you know, it might be a 4 or 5 week process due to volume, where each week there's a different set or pod of applications being assessed. They assess on the applications criteria, the artistic assessment, and of course they look at the feasibility of the project, the budgets. They then at the end go through a priority list of which ones they feel should be at the top and definitely funded, and then of course they have to go through the very painful process of going through all the budgets and then allocating the money
and support material. You forgot about support material.
Oh yes, the support material. In the music section, all of our programs require you to submit 3 tracks or 3 videos. We accept audio or video material, and that is also shown to the peer assessment committee. So we recommend that you always submit the best quality recording that you can, because that can be detrimental to your application if there's any static or the sound keeps coming in and out, or you know, we have to keep adjusting you know, the video. We don't accept links or anything like that. It has to be physical material, or if you use our Go Grants online system, you can upload your music or video directly there. But it is a very, very crucial part of the assessment process, so you always have to make sure that everything is as perfect as you can make it.
When it comes to the quality of material being submitted, I find part of the challenge, because myself, I'm an independent artist. I was performing today. I had a blast. I love it. But my recording quality can only get to a certain point because of the capacity that I have on my own. So I don't know how we can find a way to I guess, explain that as a barrier. Like, how would we be able to move an application process knowing that we have that lack of quality that would solidify that application?
I think the jury is aware of how much money it would take to come in with a professionally produced demo, especially for emerging artists. I think in addition to trying to present the best work you can, it's also trying to present, at least in our case, trying to present examples that are relevant to the application that you're making. I find often that artists send in music samples that they like, but they're not necessarily relevant to the projects that they're proposing and the direction they want to go into. So it's just being really being considerate about what you put forward and what you want the jury to see and hear.
And there are programs at the OAC to get you to the demo stage, but I think people, I think what you're saying is you want it to be clear so people can hear it and assess it. But like anything, whether it's film or music, anything that you're recording, if it's an amazing story or if it's amazing work, then the audience will always forgive to a certain point. But that's not my advice, I guess. But just saying that we do, we've had things come in that have been recorded on 8-track, even like from Northern Ontario, or people that are still working with older equipment, and people say, well, yeah, obviously then they want to get, that's why that makes a compelling case. If it's really, really interesting work and could be high impact, then all the jurors are artists themselves, so.
And I think one of the things is also just do a little paragraph about why
This is why.
This is why you're submitting this. This is, the reason why the quality is this and what your plans are, because that's part of the impact that Sarah spoke about earlier. And I think that's really important. The peer assessment, you just hit it on the nose. It is artists, right? And that's, although they may be experts, but they're also your peers and they're artists, and they've all been there, just like you have. So I think you have to understand that although they're there to do their job and base it on the criteria of the program and the work that you submitted, they're also there to, have that generosity of what Sarah was talking about too. There's a bit of give and take because they've been there. So I think.
And it's also very well facilitated. So if any of you if you're interested in being on a jury panel, you should email your information to the program officer or the program associate. It's not just a free-for-all like you might have experienced in the industry, like just criticizing. It's it's professional, and everyone is very well charged with with the Human Rights Coast, with the UN Declaration of Rights of Indigenous Peoples, and it's a very fair process. There's lots of passion in the room, but it's not like, let's just watch this material and rip it apart. It's been, in the OAC, it's a process that's developed over 50 years, and it's considered a very fair process to distribute public funding.
It's very transparent.
Yes.
At
We will
both-
give you
both arts
feedback.
councils.
Everything is recorded. So if you are not successful at the OAC, you can call that officer and we will give you feedback. We also release notification of everyone that sat on that panel. So if for some reason you thought, there was some conflict there, it's very transparent.
Yeah,
That's
we
the
have
word
the
that
same
we're
process at the Canada Council also. You can get your feedback of what the committee thought of your application, the project, and as Sarah was saying, they have the life experience, so they can look at your application and say, oh, the recording fees, you're asking way too much, it's actually should be just this, and we can take that back afterwards and then let you know that, the jury didn't think that it was feasible because of these aspects of your application, which then help you to better your next one the next time around.
The City of Ottawa also uses peer assessment, so we also try to select a jury that is representative of what's at the table. In our case, we don't have juries for each music genre like some other funders do, because we just don't have the volume and the capacity to do so. So we try to select jurors that have knowledge and experience in a wide variety of the genres. So our juries are run a little bit different. The difference is also that while you can go to the Canada Council and the OAC for feedback after the jury, unfortunately at the City of Ottawa we just can't. There's just not enough staff. Yeah.
So I also want to add, like, the peer assessment. To be on a peer assessment committee is an incredible process and an amazing experience. So if you ever get asked, you'll learn so much, and everything's confidential, and it's such an amazing experience. It'll help you understand the whole process of what happens when your application comes in the door, because they read like weeks before and then they come in and meet and deliberate. You had a question?
For the Canadian Council, you indicated that there's funding for creation grants. talked about this order of operations in terms of getting grant, like career progression.
Yes.
I was wondering, when you're emerging and you don't have that much of a substantial portfolio of work, what are the criteria for creation grants?
Well, if we take the grants to professional musicians, the individuals, we do receive applications from emerging, mid-career, and established musicians. Part of the guidelines within the application is we ask for your professional resume, so you do have to show a history of professional performance, professional paid performance. And within that, we do have a definition also of what constitutes a professional musician within our guidelines. It's taken into consideration that if you're an emerging artist and you only have 2 years of public performance, then the officer does consider you, yes, you are an emerging artist. Especially if you've just come out of university and you have your master's or in musicology, and you're going to take some time off to study with a master or to write some more. Those are things also that you can explain in your application in order to increase your knowledge or your capacity to move forward and record. You need to do this first.
Well, unfortunately, we're going to have to come to a close. But before you ask your question, the three of you can also be available for a few minutes if you want to speak to them individually. Because there's so much information that has to be covered. How you can ask? You sure? Because if it's an important question.
To share with the interwide web.
No, I was just wondering. I'm finding myself supporting supporting artists.
No, I think our mics were.
Oh yeah. I'm finding myself supporting artists sometimes through the radio. So I play all First Nations music, and I was wondering. I think if there's a grant somewhere that helps people to create maybe a cultural space for Native people to come play, or to bring people to your community and stuff like that. Is there a grant for that?
At the Canada Council, unfortunately, we don't have a grant like that. I guess to bring people to your community to perform would be that artist would have to apply to us for a travel grant and submit the letter of invitation or the contract of you inviting them to perform, which then helps that person increase their audience base by going somewhere they've never been before, and at the same time helps your community discover another artist at the same time and possibly learn from them.
I don't know where you're located, but if you were, yeah, if you are within city limits at the City of Ottawa, we do fund music organizations and non-arts organizations if they partner with other arts organizations or artists. There's certain criteria you have to meet. You have to be a not-for-profit, and amongst other things. So there's a whole list again to go through. I would really encourage you to, go on our website and look up what's available and see if there's any fit. It's really difficult to make suggestions by not knowing a lot of things, but yeah, look at it and again, and call us. Just say, this is what I do, and the worst that can happen is us saying, I'm sorry, I don't see a fit here. Sometimes we have suggestions of who else to approach. I think we've all been around long enough to guide you to other funders or other foundations or organizations that might be interested in the similar work that you do, so you never know.
Great. And I think you should contact the Aboriginal Arts Office as well at the Canada Council,
Yes.
because you might, have some opportunities there. So then,
You may want to organize, thinking around down the road of forming a collective is what I think of offhand.
yes.
So how that's 3 or more people, and that's not a not-for-profit incorporated, but that you're still eligible for funding. So that's a lot of community-based projects are working in that, are organizing that way, and it's it's a very smart way of applying for projects, and it strengthens communities and our connections also.
Yeah, it's the same at the city as well. We allow collectives.
You may want to consider the artist and community collaboration program also at the council.
And that's within all their disciplines. Okay, well, thank you so much. You guys, you
Miigwech.
gals were amazing. And
Miigwech.
thank you for everyone for coming and those who are listening. Thank
Bamapi.
you.